Hi, I'm DuEwa Frazier, and you're listening to episode 24 of Nerdacity podcast. Today, my guest is poet Tongo Eisen-Martin. He is originally from San Francisco. He is a movement worker, educator, poet, and author. Tongo's book, titled Someone's Dead Already, was nominated for a California Book Award. His latest book, Heaven is All Goodbyes, was published by the City Lights Pocket Poet series, and it was shortlisted for the Griffins Poetry Prize. It also won a California Book Award and an American Book Award. His forthcoming book in fall 2021 is titled Blood on the Fog, also published by City Lights Pocket Poet series. Tongo is San Francisco's 8th Poet Laureate. Thanks for listening. Hi, Tongo. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Right on. And thanks for having me.
So I really want to congratulate you on your forthcoming book, Blood on the Fog.
Thank you.
And also your status, your recently appointed status as San Francisco Poet Laureate. Congratulations on that.
Right on.
So, sure. And, so how does it feel being such a young poet with this designation in the place where you were born and raised? You were born and raised in San Francisco, right?
Yeah. It is trippy to have to have kind of like taken so many anonymous walks through the various trenches of San Francisco and to end up in a little way on a humble scale kind of marked by history here. It definitely is it's kind of a trippy meal to eat. But I it's been beautiful so far. Just kind of just the people's potential that's involved in it has been has just been beautiful. Just an opportunity to work with a lot of people, do poetry programming in various places, and the prospects of doing more, as the world, or hopefully when the world thaws out. I'm not sure if it's actually thawing out right now, if we just putting the wish before the reality. But I'm looking forward to just bringing, just kind of bringing poetry and political education down where with whoever would have me.
That's wonderful. And have you found that being in this role currently, as you mentioned, with things not being as open, are you still able to fulfill some, community works and in your role as Poet Laureate at this time?
There's I'm working with a couple of schools right now online. And there's also just kind of curating a few events, bringing just bringing some bringing some good people to some of these platforms, to perform, to talk, to teach. In a way, I'm actually I'm not going to say there's anything enjoyable about the pandemic, but having this kind of limited start has taken the edge off of what might have otherwise been a serious 3-dimensional blitz.
Sure.
Of my my capability. So actually this kind of easing in that's enforced by this reality hasn't necessarily been terrible or frustrating. I think everything will kind of fall into place when it needs to, and everything will get moving when it needs to.
Well, that's really good to hear that you're, really taking it all in stride and just kind of really, taking advantage of this time period as it is. And so with, you mentioning the pandemic, that kind of leads me into something else I was wondering. Has the pandemic impacted your writing and creativity at all?
Well, in kind of like in that way between direct and indirect, in that there the pandemic, this time has been filled with various pains to to transmute, and I have just confronting certain things or relaxing into certain things has I do have I have some poems to show for it, but what also I think the dance with discipline also became more lucid for me when when you're really when you're really kind of boxed in, you just kind of you become more and more aware of the small the small deals with procrastination that you're
Right.
actually making,
And you
and
have no one else to, look to or even blame, right?
right. It's all right, all self-inflicted, everything. And so
Yeah.
and so it's kind of almost in a way purified me a little bit, or at the very least have a much just a much clearer vision of my processes, of my most kind of intimate processes and most kind of subtle relationships I have to craft. So it's been a not nowhere near the kind of the inferno that other people have gone through, but there has been a kind of trial by fire that has made me stronger.
Wow. And, I appreciate hearing that. And as I've asked this question with other writers, everyone kind of has their own take and experience, especially to what you mentioned about discipline. I mean, it can go either way. It can be like you're really starting to get a routine going because hey, this is it day in and day out. I mean, what else is going on? Or, things just become a lot more loose and you really have to just kind of, jerk yourself back into place to, kind of get going on those projects you said you were going to finish, before the pandemic hit.
Right. Well, we the poets did we did get lucky in a way, in that our craft is already kind of a hermitage,
Right.
and doesn't require any kind of collective move in a strict sense. Not like I'm thinking just how rough the pandemic was on the on the musicians, on the
Oh, yeah.
on
The
the actors,
actors.
on the
Yeah.
dancers, um, so and also just as far as people enjoying some kind of performance or semblance of performance, I think poetry translated through these screens more than
Truly.
other disciplines.
You and I did one of those virtual events actually last, I think, May,
Right.
myself, you, Curtis, Keisha Gay Anderson, and I thought that was fantastic.
Right. It was a beautiful event, and and also, in a way, kind of the feedback I got from those events, um it has been, it's almost been a kind of like an escalation of props, in that, people are just more appreciative of art
Mm.
being provided them in the home. And so it's kind of been some like macro compliments that I've never got before, you know,
Sure.
because it's one thing when people are like, oh, that's great what you did, or that's great what you all did, like, that was impressive. But when they say, that you just you just interrupted a nightmare of a monotony, or this is the
Truly.
right. This is like, this is the first time I felt normal, you know,
Wow.
in a long time, or this is the most normal
Mm.
kind of like, hour or two I've had in a long time. It's just it's been good in that way.
And
So,
yeah.
again, that's why I say, like, I can't, I've been through some things through this pandemic, but I can't say nowhere near like how others have, nowhere near the same size of storm.
Sure. And I can understand that. And you also had a wonderful collection come out in 2017, Heaven is All Goodbyes.
Mm.
And congratulations that you were honored with the California Book Award in Poetry for that collection in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about that work and your craft at that time?
Yeah, it was a good time for me on the page, in that, kind of this species of poem, that was almost like a kind of a new incarnation for me, as a poet, was really coming into its prime, and I had just kind of a lot of, just my musicianship was really strong at the time. My powers to experiment were really strong at the time. It was just like a whole lot, just a whole lot was coming to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then the reception of the book, being, just being so encouraging, was actually, was kind of a surprise. I mean, I knew I had something. I knew I was onto something, and I knew I had something worthwhile to add to the, to the great big conversation that is all art. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yes, that's right.
I
So
didn't think the
you
world was going
saying
to play
that
the same.
are you saying that the the award validated you further, or it felt like you had so many things can't converge, and it created a perfect situation for you as an artist, everything was working in alignment.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
well, I think the good news was, or the equation, that I kind of was lucky to stumble onto, and kind of maintain, was that, it when your actual kind of just life in craft, um is solid, or is, is almost a life, has a life of its own, is an existence of its own. um you know the ability, when, when your ability is almost, beyond uh accomplishment. And that's not to say, and I don't mean that in a grandiose way, but almost in a you know, or not even necessarily a transcendent way. I'm trying to skin this the right way, but
no, just say it,
yeah,
Tongo. You already poet laureate,
yeah, I
so
already
you
got
don't
the
have to
stamp.
be
I
humble.
know,
You,
but if I was to evangelize anything, it's just or say or declare anything, you know, universal and necessary. It is just that, you know, it really is the journey of a skill, and and I was clicking on, so it was clicking for me so well, and so much kind of like hard work was paying off just in poems that I was enjoying, or poems that were kind of like blowing my mind. What comes after,
okay.
what comes after that, is not not doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's an interesting new color, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't increase the kind of like the energy of the of my experience. But it is like, you know, it is a beautiful thing to be able to just make you, you know, to make your people proud, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um
Oh, for sure.
and especially in a life where, you know, I mean, you just if you, when you run up all the stats of your life, and it's just like, you know, so much has gone wrong, you know. So much like
It's like,
like
wow,
when
I need a win right now
right
because
like
everything else.
right like when has life been fair, you know, like
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you start, you know, I mean, especially in an oppressive society, I mean, you pretty much start losing, you know, you start losing people, you start losing places, you start losing, you know, yeah, you can even
Mm-hmm.
lose yourself, you know, almost instantly, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, it is it is kind of a magical thing when something goes right. You know what I mean?
Right. Totally.
And that was and that was that is something that I'm thankful for. That I've had, you
Yeah.
know, I have had those kind of just, you know, those opportunities, to enjoy, like just I've had moments to enjoy, or where, you know, like, oh, there is a little bit of justice to
Fairness, right?
yeah.
Do you, you know, it's interesting to hear you say this because a while back I saw a conversation on Facebook. Someone posted an
Mm,
article that, you know, writers, to be a writer is a privilege, you know,
mm,
that
mm,
so many people, you know, do writers really work that hard? Are they really
mm,
struggling? Are, you know, they just almost like to be a writer is a luxury.
mm,
You know what I mean? To
mm,
create and to focus on art much of your life. Do you think on that, or have a thought on
mm.
being a poet, being a writer as being a luxury?
Yeah, I mean, it for sure it for sure is a luxury in that, you know, um, basically, you know, my output belongs to me, and my and you know, just what I think reproduces me in a very
Mm-hmm.
you know, in a very magical way, well, and also in a material way, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, on the flip side of that, you know, my craft was really built in a relative obscurity, and the kind of, I think if I have any strength, it's from, you know, kind of getting to know myself and getting to know what poetry can do outside of paradigms of kind of careerism, um, that
Mm-hmm.
continues to keep me on point, and also just understanding that, you know, craft does not exist outside of really the rules of struggle, or the needs of, you know, the need for liberation, um,
Mm-hmm.
but beautifully though, in that, you know, I found the more time that you also put into collective struggle, the better the poems get. It's because struggle requires actually a more fearless investigation of reality, right? That you can't mentally cut corners or operate on working definitions. You have to really get down into every single truth you can get your hands on, um, in order to be an effective revolutionary, and it's from that kind of it's from that embrace and surrender to truth that I then can take what I have learned and make beauty out of the nuances of reality that I only have access to through time dedicated to struggle. So it's like, yeah, you can live on a borrowed time, like like I can kind of I can just be a poet where with what I have, and it might last it might last for a little bit of time, but it's not, it's actually what's actually happening is the craft is actually crumbling. The fall is just not visible yet. If you really, and I think that's what all of the greats at whatever that, in any discipline, the greats always kept a bigger picture mission that they were dancing with, and that they had a praxis with, whether it's, some it was more of a kind of a spiritual mission. For others, it was, a kind of the spirit, the spiritualism of revolution, but
exactly.
But it's keeping it's respecting and fearing these bigger pictures that actually keeps a craft evolving, and that's what that's what we're lucky to have is your art is almost is the perfect compass for the trajectory of your spirit, the trajectory of your mind, the trajectory of your consciousness, the trajectory of your sanity. All of these things are made obvious to you through by where your craft is and what your both the output and the processes that produce it.
Sure. Wow, that was amazing how you explained that.
Right
I'm sitting up here writing out some of your quotes. You said dance with discipline.
Right on.
You said surrender to truth. You said make beauty out of the nuances of reality. I mean, you're about to be widely quoted, Tongo, after this interview. We're gonna make some memes
right
with your
quotes. Let's do
it. Yeah. So, this leads me into my next question. And you probably have you've already touched on this somewhat. How have you merged your writing and performance work with your activism? And has that been pretty seamless for you?
Well, it has been in that kind of my praxis has always it has always been there, and in many periods of my life has been super first or super primary, and so it's like, well, how to take this, how to take this kind of new, I don't know, leverage and make it collective is really the only question. We are, I do kind of subscribe to the idea that the best route is not necessarily to create a kind of a hybrid identity for yourself or a hybrid task for yourself. Like, well, okay, I'm going to be the revolutionary poet and try to make that almost like, you know, a primary color. You know, it's
As in you are the what do you call it? You're the
right.
prototype.
Yeah, it's best not to do
Today's
that.
prototype.
I mean, I would love, you know, I would love to, you know, I appreciate any kind of like any pattern I might be able to, you know, I might produce that somebody else can use to grow on. But ultimately, you know, the really the greats, the examples have been, the giants have been here. It's not necessarily on us to come up with to come up with prototypes. I think that like our mission right now is to heal what needed to be healed in these other periods of struggle, to resolve kind of internal contradictions that needed to be resolved, and just and figure out and just, you know, figure out what's that revolutionary culture that will really make our resistance invincible. And so in the meantime, like I try to just stick to the basics, and not cut to the front of any of a line, you know, like just just because I have these dynamic bars, you know, it doesn't mean
Okay,
that I'm
all
supposed
right.
to be the leader, you know what I mean, of of, of
Right,
anything.
but you never know. It's all, you know, it's for us to look at
For
you, I
sure.
guess. It's just like, you know, we're more more critical of ourselves than others
Right
outside of
on. Yeah,
us. So,
I appreciate it, and you know, and you know, and embrace, you know, all, you know, embrace all manifestations. But the moral of the story is, you know, if I, you know, if I do anything, it's gonna start, you know, whatever I do starts from the bottom, or really starts from whatever is necessary. Um, and I just see, like, you know, like these times we just have so many kind of basic equations to figure out, um that I just I wouldn't put I wouldn't put I just I wouldn't offer poetry as a solution. You know, it's a part of an overall cultural effort, or overall effort to transform culture. Um, you know, like well, who said who said that, was it Tony K. Bombard? The job of the poet is to make revolution irresistible. So
Yeah, that's a
you know,
famous
at this
quote.
point, it's just the job of the poet to make revolution normal. You know, like we we we've
Right.
gone. You know, we consciousness has gone in some pretty terrible direction. And so, like, you know, if anything, I'm just trying to, you know, I think poetry can kind of like help pull, you know, pull that collective self-talk back towards
Sure.
back in the right direction. But you know, I was talking to Emory Douglas, actually interviewed him for this upcoming anthology, and I
Oh,
asked him
wow.
about, you know what he made of the current, you know, current political moment, or current social reality, and he said he was impressed. You know, so here's a cat. You know, he was there. You know, day one with Black Panthers, was
Black
was
Panthers.
crucial. You know, was a crucial organizer and artist. You know, like, you know, right there, just like, you know, really the example. And he said, "Yeah, man, I'm impressed by these times, but the problem was there was no organization to follow up behind all of this energy and give this energy a, you know, give this energy a structure." or to that could really carry out revolutionary struggle. So it's like, I can, I can on let's say on the best day of my life ever, I can
Mm-hmm.
inspire,
Mm-hmm.
a whole lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
to join the revolutionary process. If the revolutionary organization is not there, well then I'm just another passing phantom, and so it's that work
Right.
I'm really interested in, or imploring everybody to join in right now. It's like, okay, we need revolutionary organizations right now.
Mm-hmm. And that's, just thinking about you being in San Francisco. I mean, so much of that fight and progress really did happen and come from that near that area, the Bay Area. The history is so
Mm.
deep there. Do you feel like you and poets, artists like you, are still drawing from that
Oh, for
history?
sure. I mean, I might not be anything else but that history in motion. Um, it's I really just move reality around a little bit on that page.
Mm-hmm.
I take a thought, and a thought that's not originally mine. Excuse me. I take a theory that's not originally mine, or I take a moment that was created by all of these people, and I just push it around a little bit. Whether I might take I might take gravity out of it, or I might take I might take time out
Sure.
of it, or some other kind of like law of the universe, and push things around a little bit. But everything I write is really just a finishing nail on on what other people have heroically put down. And so that radical tradition in San Francisco, a radical tradition of the Bay Area, um, is 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 definitely the main author.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, indeed. And so, I am curious about your thoughts on the poet's role in this day and time. That you just said, okay, I can inspire some people, but what do you think about the poet
Mm-hmm.
as leader?
Well, the poet,
The poet
the poet
as
can be
leader.
the poet can be leader if the poet plays by the rules, plays by the rules play by the rules of revolution, man. Diligent study, just constant um criticism, self-criticism,
Mm-hmm.
commitment to just, a commitment to healing, internal cultivation,
Mm-hmm.
a commitment to collect. You got to get away from the money thing, You got to, got to give up,
Mm-hmm.
got to give up money motivations, Got to, just really think about, well, what to kind of to transform yourself into a real instrument of revolution, a true instrument of revolution. Like, well, you got to really be honest with yourself. What needs to be done? And so who do
Mm-hmm.
you have to therefore be to best um, facilitate that? I mean, I think poets make
Mm-hmm.
what, like, Ho Chi Minh was a poet. Some of the greatest revolutionaries kept some poetry up their sleeve, or
Mm-hmm.
some kind of writing. Um, you can't get around the boot camp. You know what I mean? Like, you have to go.
No, indeed. Well, what didn't the poet, I want to say Felipe Luciano of the
Hmm.
Last Poets, I vaguely remember him running for some kind of office in New York. Do you recall him running for, even if it was, I don't know, a city councilman or something like
Something
that?
like that. I don't know specifically, but yeah, that fits. Or I think he was even a young lord. I think,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Right, right. Yes.
And so yeah, because
So would you
what,
ever
run
do
for
that,
something?
Tongo?
Nah, nah.
Run for office. You already
Yeah,
have the
no, I'm
visibility.
cool. I'm cool. I'm
Hmm.
cool. I think Poet Laureate is as deep, as deep as deep as I can institutionally go. Um, yeah, yeah, nah. But
Okay.
now, if you want to, if we want to get into some to some self governance, I wouldn't mind being a secretary of the People's Assembly, or the San
Sure.
Francisco commune, I'm down for that. But
Okay.
nah, I don't, I
Well,
couldn't deal with I couldn't deal with these state seals.
okay. And so, in terms of, going back to the poet's role at this time, is there one role do you perceive as what the poet's responsibility role, whether it's in
Mm-hmm.
community healing, activism,
Yeah,
education, or doing much of, what you mentioned before, the virtual events? Sometimes that can bring someone out of a depression or a hopeless state, just seeing, that kind of
for sure.
display.
Yeah. And I you know, I mean, again, I would vote that vote for the poet to just to do what's necessary. But I do think that now is definitely a time for political education. Putting together some kind of revolutionary learning circles. I think poets would be great at facilitating that, because we're kind of almost what we're in essence doing is taking all of this information and turning it into images that everybody else can access and gain insight and inspiration from. It's a similar muscle to to take all of to take history, to take current event, to take political theory and put it into turn it into some kind of lesson plan, or a series of discussion prompts or whatever, that will that will wake up
Hmm.
within people their own revolutionary commitment. So just like we're good with information, and so we're good at handling information and making information collective, and I think that that's not that's not a long walk to facilitating a political education class.
Yes, yes, indeed. And I appreciate you, talking about that. And so, Tongo, who are some of the people who inspire you? Poets,
Mm.
writers, performers, past, present.
Man,
Who
it's so
inspires you?
many. There's too many. I do want to say on no uncertain terms. I believe that Audre Lorde was the greatest poet of all time. Um,
Hmm.
and everybody should attend that university. uh,
Right, right.
other greats, June Jordan, Etheridge Knight, um, Lucille Clifton, um, you know, man, there's so many, uh, Sonia Sanchez, um,
Oh,
of
yeah,
course,
for
the last
sure.
poets and Gil Scott here. Um, Roque Dalton, the Salvadorian cat. You know, contemporary folks. I mean, man, there's so many. You know, Mahogany Brown, Terrence Hayes. You know, Jessica Care Moore, Aja Monet. There's some cold youngsters right now. I mean, there's this sister named Mimi Tempest who's cold. Oh man, Darius Simpson. I got a whole bunch of. I got some young killers. Michael Jones, MJ. You know, man, I don't want to. I don't want to leave anybody out. Amanda Smith. I could keep going. I could keep going and going. Dinesh Smith is a killer.
Oh yeah, Dinesh Smith.
There's a cat down in Mississippi, Celie McGinnis, who's it's everywhere. You know, you can contact me for a complete list. You know.
Oh, of course. You got the.
I got the.
You got the show.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
I got the sex. Oh man, there's too many. I mean, we you know, and I'm proud of us. You know, I feel like as far as just you know liberatory consciousness is concerned, and in a way we're lucky, right? Because we're kind of untouched by commercialism, you know, like nobody's gonna make $1 billion out of this, and therefore we're kind of left to our own devices. That's not to take away from. You know.
For a moment, I think that was questioned. I guess you know when
you
Deaf
think
Poetry
it was,
came
you think
around.
It was in question? You
know,
there was.
Well, I think I had heard the question of whether poetry was now becoming not only in terms of putting it out to the general public. See, it used to be that, you know, people who consume poetry, they were poetry lovers, right? They had a certain understanding, but now when you take it out, I guess, to the masses, you know, that means, okay, poets can now be in commercials. You know, poets, I mean, it's a good thing, but I do remember that being a discussion of, you know, how far will it go out into the masses from the grassroots community that birthed it, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's interesting.
Sure. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to that's hard to nail down, and definitely impossible for me to speak confidently about. I think there in a certain way we were not in danger of losing our soul in that kind of other aspects, what was becoming, you know, kind of like mass popular culture was such a runaway train. And especially or the hegemony that it featured was so powerful. I think that, you know, I don't know if you know if poetry could have had that same could have coexisted or was only gonna ride that train. But so far, you know, I think like the territory in which poetry takes place has always had a great effect on poets. Because what's interesting is a cat will sell out and not even get anything for it. You know what I mean? It's just based on where, you know, just based on where
You
this poetry,
it.
where the poetry is taking place.
Yes. Well, I asked that because I remember a time when it was like, you know, people would ask you, well, have you been on Deaf Poetry? You know, that became the marker. Now, maybe it's because I, you know, when that was going on. I
Yeah.
mean, if you were in New York,
Yeah.
that's the conversation you heard. Well, are you,
Yeah.
are you a deaf poetry poet? Have you ascended to that
Yeah.
rank or that level?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Luckily I didn't even have a chance.
So,
But
yes, I
yeah,
hear you.
that's and also, I was also lucky in that my a lot of my time was spent in the New Eurekan Poets Cafe, and
Yeah, that's where I first saw you. You probably don't remember, but that's where I
oh
first saw
wow,
you and met you at the New Eurekan. And then I think I saw you again in
at
Boston.
the Nationals, or was it what was this,
Boy, I can't remember.
like
It was one
2011
of
or
those
something like that?
events. Yeah. No,
Even
it was
before
far
that?
before that.
Wow, we'll figure it out.
Hmm.
We'll figure it out. But yeah,
Yeah, for sure. So I just wanted to tell you that's how I became aware of you, Tongo. It was, in New York. And it was wild. I didn't even know you were from California. I used
you
to
thought
think
I
you
was
were
from
from
New
New
York, but
York.
I sounded like that.
Yeah. Well, no, because I don't know, but hey,
I
didn't you
did.
go to
I
Columbia?
did.
I mean,
I always thought I maintained
yeah,
the
so,
integrity of my California accent. You know what I mean?
yeah, but you
Yeah,
got your
yeah,
letters,
yeah.
as they say. So
Yeah,
you
I
could have
was
been from
definitely brought
anywhere
home
though,
there.
but
And was and was
uh-huh.
super lucky in that regard. That as a stray puppy, that's the door I wandered up to. You know, because it does, like,
Right.
the heavyweights of the realm, that you're trying to make your bones is does you know set the really sets your concept of accomplishment, of success, of skill, of what you want to be. So
Sure.
and at the time that I got there, there were just like Mums the Schemer, rest in peace. um yeah,
Oh, rest in peace. That's right. Miguel
right,
Algarin,
Miguel,
rest in peace.
rest in peace. Like, man, I'll never forget. Like, it was a night that Rocky used to throw in there. I don't want to mess up his last name. He had like two monthly events in
Uh-huh.
there. Um, and it was one of those, and
Mm-hmm.
man, mom's got on the mic. It was like Sarah Jones was there. It was like they was
Oh
all
yeah,
in
they
there.
all used to be in there.
Yeah,
Taylor Molly,
Ostia.
all of them,
Yeah,
all those heavy hitter poets. It was
for
like
the
the first
X-Men, right?
class of,
Right,
celebrity poets.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Lemon
yeah. It
Anderson,
was
and all
so
those
those
folks.
were
Yeah.
those were the superheroes in the mansion, man. And I'll never forget
Mm-hmm.
how Ham Mums was going, like, really completely giving himself over to energies. Um, I never
Mm-hmm.
saw anybody do that. And that's, not necessarily like you don't necessarily pattern your style. I mean, you can, and understandably, it's natural to pattern your style after them, but it's to kind of like to even more just pattern your intensity after that, or pattern
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
just kind of pattern your sixth sense after that. you know it
Sure.
was crucial, and that's anything I do, like, or anything I'm able to facilitate, is all just a credit to watching those cats get busy.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing. So you can attest. I mean, you've been a
Yeah, I
part of
was there. I
history
was there.
for a long
I
time.
was there sneaking around. was there. I was there smoking them. I
You
was
were
there.
soaking it up.
I was there.
And so, Tongo, so I know that, in addition to being published by City Lights, I want to say, is it City Lights Press?
I'm not
City
too
Lights
sure.
Books?
Man,
I'm like, hold up. Don't let me get it wrong
I think
here.
it's City Lights Publishers.
Let me check.
And then they have City Lights Books or City Lights Bookstores. The store,
Right. I saw it in two different
I'm not
places.
sure myself all that to say.
Yeah. Okay. So, so they publish Heaven is All Goodbyes, and then they're publishing
yes
Blood on the Fog as well.
And City Lights is another pirate ship, that I've been fortunate to climb aboard, similar to the New York in many regards, just a place, a place built by legends.
And you have a home, a publishing home
for sure.
Work.
They're great over there. They've been really good to me.
And so, Tongo, you also started your own press.
Can
you tell me about that
Black
as well?
Feather Press, we really, it started, it has a, its origin is in a few threads. Chronologically speaking, though, I really just wanted to be of some kind of help. I have conversations with people, and I'd have conversations with poets, and the conversation will be framed around them wanting some kind of advice, and as we're talking, I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, you don't need advice, you just need a break. That's it.
you need an
so,
opportunity.
I've become familiar with to a certain extent with the literary scene and processes of publishing. Why not take my know-how and be of some help to some of these folks. But now there are other missions too that probably even kind of greater than the anecdote. That we have to start really carrying the means of cultural production. And the thing is, like, no matter how groovy your art is, and no matter how groovy, another publisher might be, or a publishing house might be, if the actual processes of publication are not in your hands, there is a permanent powerlessness in that. And so, because because at the end of the day, you're not determining, you're not determining the entire reality of that process. And that's ultimately, so, ultimately we talk about liberation, or what is it? Well, one way to look at it is liberation is just people facilitating the determination of their reality, of creating their reality, instead of just living in someone else's prescription. And so at the very least, what we can do as poets is take take control of that, take control of these processes of cultural production, because it is, in a way, it's taking control of reality. And so, with that also, with that fact, comes the plan, to capture more and more, so, we can yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we can be
Mm-hmm.
the publishing arm. We can also be we can also get our hands on some, the actual machines, and we can print these books up ourselves. We can distribute these books ourselves, right? Now this is not original, but I
Mm-hmm.
think like this is not an original idea, not an original practice. Um, but I think if more and more of us, um, you know, uh, dedicate ourselves collectively to this control of cultural production, at least for Black and Brown art. Um, that is a that scaffolds that's good scaffolding for greater revolutionary moments.
Sure. And you are, if I hear you clearly, you're essentially talking about
Right.
institution building and keeping your intellectual property
Right. Keep your
within your
property.
own
Right. Keep
power
your.
as
I
much as
mean, and that's
possible.
that at Black Freighter, the author makes more money than we do off of a book. Right. We yeah,
Well,
we
how do
got
I
to
sign up? How do I
we got to
submit?
just give me a little bit of time to build. We gotta, we gotta,
I'm kind,
we're
yeah,
super limited resources right now, but no, we building. Um, but keep the
yeah.
keep the proper keep your money, and also we can enforce the stamps. We can enforce the
Mm-hmm.
the what do you call it, like the accolade, the validation.
Sure. The
Exactly.
stamps of
What
approval, the
makes you a valid
validation,
poet? Because
the
right now,
yes,
all of the
yeah.
stamps basically are in bourgeois hands, right? To where somebody, because it's so trippy to me, like, I had, even in Heaven is All Goodbyes, I have poems
Mm-hmm.
that were written before I had any kind of any real public presence, um, or the public presence that I have now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There are California, and actually an American Book Award as well. There are award-winning poems in Heaven is All Goodbyes that were written
Yes.
at a table in Mississippi, where I was just doing organizing work. I didn't have, I mean, there's some beautiful artists, and don't get me wrong, there's some beautiful collectives of artists in Mississippi that I got stronger with, right? As far as, you want to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like the profession of poetry, no, nowhere. You know what I mean? Right? Now, if I had taken
Mm-hmm.
those same
Wow.
poems,
Yeah.
right, and say I just printed them up myself, I promise you the reception would not be
Mm.
would not be the same, right? It'd be different.
Would have been
So
different.
we have to move
Sure.
we have to move away from the bourgeois stamp, right? And because this is also, and now we have some beautiful doing some, some brilliant things, but I think in aggregate we probably don't even know what we can do. We probably don't even know how good we actually
Mm-hmm.
are, because our crafts are stifled by these are stifled by this current socialization of art. And so what, yeah. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, I was,
And
uh,
mm-hmm. I was just gonna say, and to what you're saying, Tongo, you often hear, you've heard throughout, not you, but us, you're always hearing, oh, well, if you independently publish, you have your own press, that's not, that's not as highly
Right.
looked
Now,
upon. It's
meanwhile,
not as valid, or,
meanwhile, and meanwhile, if I
yeah.
may, if I may give a 20-second expose, a lot of this literary scene is really are paper tigers, man. Are not like or someone else's down to earth idea. It's just there's nothing there's nothing impossible going on around here. There's nothing magical going on around here. There's nothing that you can't do going on around here. It's all just mass. But it's really just this mass psychology. I mean,
Right.
like, it's not, there's not even kind of like, there's nothing even kind of industrially great going on. It's not, yeah, it's really, it's really all in our minds. It's all in our, it's all in our heads. And I think a step towards, liberating ourselves culturally from that is just, if we take more and more responsibility. Because, the thing is, it didn't always used to be like this. And I think it very much is tied to kind of like the ascendancy of this, monopoly capital, or this corporatocracy that is just like really, now nobody, you're buying absolute junk from a Walmart. You're buying absolute junk. That nigga can't keep it real one time.
Well, you know what? They
Can I
don't
go in
sponsor my
on them real
podcast.
quick?
So
So we
go
buying
ahead.
junk from these folks, but we won't go into, like a mom and pop store. And the mom and pop stores are gone. Right. Right. It's the same, it's the same kind of, it's the same paradigm. Like we think, oh, it has, if it doesn't descend, like it has to descend from some white heaven. If it don't descend from some white heaven, then it don't count. And I'm just telling you, like, these are literally the same poems. But if you take them, you put them in a different context, and nobody will celebrate them, and so
Right.
and so and I'm not knocking anybody, because I think this is the this is even the international trend. This is a global.
Right. So you touching on what we were talking about. I was using just deaf poetry as an example, but the vehicles by which we make the word, literature, poetry, or what have you, mainstream, and how it is validated. And do you find that there's value, Tongo, in getting a deal, whatever that opportunity is, so that your work is more widely distributed, marketed, or what have you?
I think,
what
on a case for case basis, I would never try to intervene in anybody's fate, and nor down anybody's individual output, or what you've done, or what you're gonna do, what you want to do. That's because who knows how the Lord works in mysterious ways. So I would never, there's certain engineering, there's certain cosmic engineering that's really not my business. But I think overall we'll get to a much better place if we start shifting, and art will get to a better place, and the people, people get to a better place when there is an organized effort to determine all the facets of reality, and that goes for all kind, again, that goes for the potential people's assembly that could look after our neighborhoods. That goes for the freedom school, the elementary school that I went to, that was just a brainchild of a sister from Kansas, who came came out to San Francisco and said, I'm not, I'm not gonna let, I'm gonna steal back as many black children as I can, right? And that we're gonna do the young gifted thing, right? That goes for all of these, just like, just efforts of self-determination. It's through that and it's because it's through that you gain a whole new kind of confidence. And going back to, like, how is the radical tradition of the Bay Area in your poetry. It's even in my self-esteem, or
wow.
even how I could dare to be a poet in the first place. It's because I was given this confidence by this kind of improvised village that said, no, we're not going to just feed our children to the hegemony, and so it's crucial again, like, so even if it's a fruit that we don't enjoy, that we don't get to enjoy, that there's an immeasurable generational output, man. The people who come up in the structures that you create, because I'm a product of the Western Addition Cultural Center over here in San Francisco, or what they call the African American Arts and Culture Complex now. Like this is the liberated territory that is created in other ways, or that can be created kind of just like, one endeavor at a time. It's crucial cultural work that builds builds generational consciousness. See, cats want to talk about this generational wealth. I don't know why, but I'll leave it alone. I won't go. I won't go there, right? But I just we'll live that. Yeah,
we'll do an IG live interview at some point.
But in the meantime, I just want to put out there generational consciousness. And and even if you worried more about the next generation's kind of individual activities, I promise you, any individual kind of success that I've ever got my hands on starts with a collective confidence, or a confidence that emerged from unapologetic, just revolutionary consciousness. That is a bottom line, and so so for us and for the next generation, again, and not to mention the greater potentials of just revolutionary masses. These little steps are crucial, and or at the very least, it's the least we can do, which is take stuff that we're already interested in, take our comfort zones as they already exist, and just try to figure out how to make them how to take the process and make it revolutionary.
True indeed. And thank you for that, Tongo. You really giving us an education. You walking us through not only your history, but just thinking about the community and what the past represents for the present. It's very important. And so I'd like to ask you about your forthcoming book, Blood on the Fog. Tell me about your inspiration for this book, and then I'd love it if you can share a few of your
it's
poems from the collection.
That Blood on the Fog actually doesn't start with a decision of kind of content or a of content, but rather with a kind of a new approach to writing for me. That before, when I would write, it was very kind of like it was a very really almost like neurotic experience where, you know, my objective was just like, look, I got a timer. I'm gonna put the timer on for 2-3 hours every day. Whatever happens within that happens. You know, I'm just gonna kind of like get to know myself, you know, get to know how my mind works, but at the, you know, and be tortured and be tortured like at the same time. But I wasn't right, wasn't really intentional
At the same time.
with that, with the time on the pad. And when Heaven Is All Goodbyes was done, I was kind of at a loss, because between, you know, between some of my first book, Some Was Dead Already, and Heaven Is All Goodbyes, there really it really, there wasn't, they were not asking for a trilogy. It really was kind of complete. And in fact, there are poems in Heaven is All. In fact, the title poem Heaven Is All Goodbyes is older than almost every poem in Someone's Dead Already. There are poems basically that I didn't include in Someone's Dead Already because I wanted Heaven Is All Goodbyes to be more personal. But what happened along the way, as you know, my little bit of presence started growing, I just started noticing, like, you know, that there was just kind of a racism that went along with it. That, you know, and especially like kind of like racist compliments. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That yeah. Oh, it can,
really? Are you really?
Like, you know, like when cats say, "Oh, you're such a good performer," right? You know, instead of what I'm actually saying, and exactly, it's like, oh,
instead
yes,
of
you
talking
know,
about the content of your work.
Oh man, what did somebody call my, like, oh, performance poetry from the streets or something like that? Yeah.
Street poetry.
Literally.
Sometimes they say,
urban.
he's an
They
urban
literally
poet.
call me
And the
urban.
person's like, what? I'm not from he's a ghetto
right.
poet. I'm not even from the
I'm
from the
I'm sitting here
suburbs. What are you
like,
talking about?
okay, well, now I'm gonna show you I'm gonna show you that you can't do what I do on stage. It put me in it put me kind of in a competitive and so, you know, and that changed the trajectory of Heaven Is All Goodbyes, where it became, you know, it became, in a way, it became less vulnerable. Though there's still kind of, you know, there's still, you know, still some soulful walks taken, and there's still some, you know, some eulogies given. It wasn't, you know, it started to, it got tough. And
okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, is that you would normally not be as perhaps what do you call it? You wouldn't hold back certain, you know, thoughts or certain raw how you're creating a picture of the social, you know, reality, as you mentioned. But in other words, you thought to, hey, I'm about to throw some form on them. I'm about to throw some structure on them. I'm gonna give them certain styles. Is that what you're saying about that collection?
I'm gonna play with language in a way that their minds are not even capable of. I'm gonna play with, you know, the definitions of phenomenon that they couldn't pay for. They couldn't invent an algorithm to imitate. They couldn't, you know.
And Tongo, that is why, sir, you are San Francisco Poet Laureate. Do you see that?
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm you know, John Henry, man. You know, you will not. Your artificial intelligence will not be able to will not be able to drive words like me, let alone your, let alone your feeble racist mind, and so, it's so in
yes.
And so in this, kind of like, born from that, you have these two books that are really kind of, are insulated from, insulated from the rest of my journey, and also what kind of happened was, so all of these poems are from a certain time period, where I did, I suffered I suffered some crucial losses, as well as, just the day in, day out trenches of my life, transformed greatly. I appreciate that.
Sorry to hear that.
And so there was a lot of energy. Now at the same time, I also wandered into this kind of like new species of poem or musicianship, this kind of multi-narrator approach, and kind of what I'm like what I'm known for now. That's born and developing, but it's an interesting kind of graph, in that in this period that both these books come from, on the one end, the energy, the energy of events is waning, and the power of the musicianship is increasing. So it's a tricky, they reach an interesting kind of like, it's an interesting equilibrium that ultimately, though, has to end. And when it when it ends, I really didn't. And when it ended, I didn't know where to. I didn't know where to go, and I was actually I was really dissatisfied with everything I was writing. And it was actually it's just one day. I had this gig at the Museum of the African Diaspora here in San Francisco, and I misunderstood the I misunderstood the gig. I thought it was just, I was just gonna show up and just do a regular poetry set. It didn't land in my head that I was actually supposed to write an original poem based on an exhibit. And luckily, I don't know if it's because they had presence of mind, knew that this was a possibility, that I didn't know what was going on. But somebody hit me like the day before, like, looking forward to hearing that new poem tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay, new poem, I got you. And so, I'm like, okay, we can do this. And luckily the exhibit itself was online, so I pulled it up, and I have the exhibit up, man, and I put on this Coltrane record, out of this world, and it just kind of maybe with the last minute pressure, the visual art itself, and the Coltrane, and energy just kind of built. Now, usually when I'm writing, I don't I don't really I kind of leave. I'm not gonna say ignore the energy, but I don't dance with it, for for other reasons I don't even know if we have time for. But it wasn't the mode. But man, this time I started doing something. It kind of hit me to do something that I do when I'm reciting a poem, and that is to not just like to not just dance with the energy, but like really keep an attention on it. almost to the point of just like really in real time listing it, like all of to myself, what are the sensations and, just like what's going on, and just being curious, almost being curious about it. And I'll be damned if while I was doing that, like really my curiosity around this energy, my more kind of like subconscious voices, that they kind of just blah 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 away in your ear, just a random nothing. They started to get productive, and they started to say some really interesting things. And I wrote this poem that just really blew my mind. I was just like, oh, whoa, we got it. And so, it was from this practice that Blood on the Fog was born. Just the employ of this kind of new zone to write in is really what gave birth to this book. And it's a really, I mean, it's strong. It's a strong. I mean, I don't have a favorite child, but now if one of my children, is just a better basketball player, we just have to be honest about it. You know what I
mean? So you wouldn't be mad if one was extracted out of the collection for an award per se.
I would not be opposed. But I don't, I can really say, for better for worse, that this is probably my strongest book. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. And let me tell you, you sounded, I could really hear joy in your voice as you were describing the strategies and steps that led up to,
because before the sun comes up, however the rest of that goes, it was bad, It was bad. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know what I was like, man, is the poetry over? And I just like wandered into it, and yeah.
Wow.
I got a really
connection. Because you were, I truly believe, and we've discussed this on the podcast with other writers. Did you choose it or were you chosen? So which one is it, Tongo? Were you chosen or did you choose this for yourself?
Well, I don't know about y'all. I was held hostage from the jump.
Oh wow!
Snatched. Yeah,
so they definitely chosen. You were snatched. That's what they call snatched.
Since for as long as I can remember, lines just jump into my mind. Yeah.
Wow, what a blessing, though. I mean, because hey, you steadily, from the way I see it, and I'm sure many other people, you have steadily been growing over the years in your craft, your community interactions, your productivity, your output.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and only yourself? And again, just really due to all growth, just due to the bigger pictures, that I try to interact with, but that's ultimately, to me, that's the true journey,
Yeah,
that's the true objective. I think, you could probably codify it, like I could probably codify it in a healthier way. But evolution is that's what this art thing come down to. You can, people come up with different point A's and point B's, but based on some kind of accomplishment, but you're not even tapping in to the full potential of really what your mind can do. And that's what, poetry is, just the opportunity to see what your mind can really do, or see what your mind wants to do. Coltrane said, all the musician really is doing is just revealing the natural laws of the universe that they've come to understand. This is the greater potential of art, to actually reveal nature, or the various natures that the universe is made of, and to really, I think that's something any human being can pull off. I think, artists, we just kind of have a little bit of a head start, or again, we have this art that is ready-made compass to use, and so far be it from me to waste that opportunity to kind of to get to know the universe,
Right. True indeed. And so, Tongo, I'm going to give you a choice here. Do you want to continue on with reading, or do you want to schedule an IG Live with me where we get to see you read from the book and some of these poems?
Yeah, let's bring them to the IG Live.
Writing process on that.
If you want to look, so, they can put it like this. If you want to see if I'm bluffing,
okay.
Right.
Right. Let's see if you really can.
Put me to the
test. Right. So, okay. So let's do this, because I feel like I've kept you on but it's been fascinating. Just hearing you talk and listening to you, and you are just really an old soul. You know what I mean?
Fact,
have you ever heard people say that
me Paw
to you? Right, because you're so young, but yet you have such an inspiring, wise spirit and knowledge beyond your time. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's fascinating. So, Tongo, so then tell me this, and then what I'll do, behind the scenes when we're wrap this up, I'll reach out and let's do, schedule a live. I think that'll be great for people to see. And then I can, upload that, and, we'll have that interaction of you reading and get to see the book in the
September.
flesh. So please tell me, when
September
does your book
7th.
drop?
I think yeah, but you can. No, I was
September
just gonna
7th.
Nah. You could probably. I think the pre-order option is up on the City Lights website.
Got you. So the pre-order is up. And do you already have a copy, a bound copy of?
I do not. There's still a couple final rounds of editing going on right now. I probably won't see what do they call that? Galleys or something like that. I probably won't see the galley till about June or July. Yeah, probably June, July.
What? July, August? Okay. Okay.
Well,
so do you want to read
a
piece, or do you want to wait? We can. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Well, what you got?
I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket, a penny that's yet to be invented. They say you have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. I mean, playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things. It interrupts me while I'm trying to dream. Like your clay correspondence, Lord. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. And I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind, explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions, modern militancy. I mean, windows to the South. I'll walk on a missile for food. I guess you will not want flowers for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country I murder merge with us, Lord? Our old metal versus new metal. Our old metal versus pool of meandering imperialist faces of multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity instead of a chest cavity held tight. It takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories. A song about a song, a hemisphere about a hemisphere. Stories that travel through a conquered poet. Now, my mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. What I do is fight poems and sleep through decadent San Francisco prayer circles, watch people play for post-working class associative surfaces, recreations of a governor's desk, ruling class art of utility plan, find a sociopathic bureaucrat, a day some white people scare even easier, TV in a basket, next to a ceramic baby wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny fantasizing through the art of the poor, their trendy latches locked before God, black art hunted down like a dog, and hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm going to die in a war. Unelected white people in my small house like a blue song of no spiritual effect, or dollhouse H-bomb, a pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, a chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river, no autobiography outside of small personal victories of violence and drug use made in the image of God trinkets, what white abolitionists confided in their children about. Chemical assurances that they will switch from black artist to white artist, from black guy to white guy, from black worker to white worker. You know, I think about you cautiously, Lord. In the same way I think about my childhood, Lord. Foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute. Comedian points out a planter's field to a priest, King Sugarcane, King Cotton, King Revolutionary, the Bible Essential, containing all modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planet class, speaking about fevers and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we can figure out our fathers later. You know, a priest took my mother lightly, Lord. Stood in front of parishioners, re-raveling fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. You know, after the day, I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends. They lean rifles on shelter walls. They agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one. To keep nothing godlike. To write a poem for God. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow, that was powerful. I mean, I had just visions, you know, hearing your poem, so much imagery. It's like you should be on a TED stage with that, Tongo. So we're going to speak it into existence. Wow. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Tongo, for joining me on the podcast. So please tell me where people can find your work. You did mention the pre-order. If you can give that information again.
Publishers, here you go. It's citylifesomething.org. You know, or if you just search
right.
Tongo City Lights, actually both books are available on that website. Heaven Buys. I don't know where Someone's Dead Already is right now, but you want to search away.
Okay. I'll also include the link when I put the description up.
And I got there's also this press in the UK put out a book of actually with some essays I wrote along with some old poems and a couple new poems.
I wonder was that the book Was that How We Fight White
Right.
Supremacy?
That actually was How We Fight White Supremacy is a beautiful anthology, in which I only did one poem, but it's a beautiful anthology actually put together by this sister named Akiba Solomon. Yeah. You already know, just a beautiful
Akiba.
writer.
I'm familiar with her. She's been a writer, editor for a long while. I used to see her name
a real one. She's a real one. And now so I strongly recommend everybody get that How We Fight White Supremacy. It got a whole bunch of it got some heavyweights in there. But now the book that this UK press put out is called "Waiting Behind Tornadoes for Food."
Wow. I'm gonna
waiting behind tornadoes.
Reference that. Waiting behind tornadoes for food.
It's
tornadoes. I'm sorry.
A little less gangster, but
tornadoes.
I'm not sensitive. I'm secure.
Oh, yeah. Right. Oh, okay. This is cool. Yeah, I found it. I found a nice post on this. Yeah. Published. Oh, this was just this past November. Oh, this was recent. Okay. Nice. Okay, Tongo Eisen-Martin. I see the cover, and then they have a nice description here.
Yeah, good folks, good folks out there.
Oh, nice. Okay. Wow. Wow. Well, Tongo, thank you so much. And people can follow you on social media. You're on both, Twitter, Instagram,
on Twitter
and Facebook,
as _TONGOGARA, and then another underscore, _TONGOGARA, and the same thing on Instagram, _TONGOGARA, On the Facebook, it is Tongo Eisen-Martin, but I think I'm full. I think I can. I don't think I can't take on more friends. Man, I wish I had a Snapchat, man. I'm just not that hip.
You gonna give us your Snapchat?
I didn't progress past the Instagram.
Right.
Every once in a while.
Sure, that's okay. You're busy.
That's right.
And you know what?
Right. Busy
you
doing
get
what I have to do.
Pass on that. You're busy writing. Yeah, for sure. All right, Tongo. Well, as always, I will continue to follow you and support what you're doing. Really excited about the work that you have coming out, and I look forward to see everything else that you're going to be doing in the coming months and years. And just thank you again for being my guest today.
All right. Peace.
And you were just listening to episode 24 of Nerdacity Podcast, featuring my guest, Tongo Eisen-Martin, in celebration of National Poetry Month. Check out Tongo's latest book, which is soon to be released this year, Blood on the Fog, published by City Lights Books. Visit citylights.com to pre-order this collection. I hope you'll follow Nerdacity Podcast on Instagram at Nerdacity Podcast. Tweet me and also follow at Twitter, NerdacityPod1. If you've been enjoying these episodes, feel free to give a small donation by visiting anchor.fm/DuEwa Fraser or by sending to paypal.me/DuEwa World. Also visit my artist and author website at duewaworld.com. Thanks for listening. Take care.